Hey, what's up everyone? Dragon here, back again to tell you that you should be watching Little Witch Academia. So Little Witch Academia is an anime series that began in 2015 with a couple of, Kickstarter funded films, which later became an animated series, and takes place in the fictional Luna Nova Magical Academies where they train young girls to be witches. And what I'm kind of guessing, assuming, is meant to be modern day Europe, somewhere they never really specify where it is, but just based on kind of just the architecture, the look of it, it's definitely Europe. I would venture to say the UK. And basically, you follow Atsuko Kagari, Akko for short, and basically as a child, she sees the witch Shiny Chariot, who kind of puts on these elaborate shows with magic to kind of dazzle and entertain the public. And she sees it as a little girl and gets so inspired by that she wants to go and train to be a witch. So when she gets a little bit older, she joins the academy, and I know right away it sounds a little Harry Potter-esque, a magical school that trains young people to magical abilities. But unlike Harry Potter himself, who is just, overflowing with manifest destiny, Akko is not a prodigy. Quite the opposite. She struggles with magic. She has some magical ability, but as a whole, isn't really excelling. Not at the point we see her now. The two films that came before kind of take place later on, kind of already within kind of her magical academic career. The series is basically kind of showing how she got there, so it takes place a little bit before, so they all kind of link up and interconnect. Basically, with the help of her two roommates, they kind of go on these little madcap adventures, and if you just look at it right away, you see it's kind of very cute, very adorable, very kind of fun and wacky story. But beneath that, there is another element to it, and this is the element that really kind of drew me to this story, and what made me want to do, this story on this episode is that, like I said, it takes place in the modern day, but unlike, for instance, Harry Potter, where the magical community is kind of hidden, the real world doesn't know about them. A few people, political officials, secretly know that this magical community exists. In this world, the whole world knows about magic. It's kind of like an alt world version of ours, if you will, where people know about magic, people know about witches, history is filled with witches and sorcerers and that kind of stuff, mythical creatures. It's not a secret. So it's basically our world in the modern world and how it would react to the presence of magic as it is. And the reality is, magic is on the decline. This school is kind of struggling to kind of maintain its identity, to kind of continue to exist, because there are a lot of people, especially in politics in this world, and essentially our world, that's see magic as kind of this arcane thing. It's from a bygone era that really no longer serves a purpose. Because now with technology, we can basically do what these witches do with magic, essentially. Where magic used to kind of essentially be our technology once upon a time, it was the only way for us to kind of achieve certain marvels. We can now do it ourselves with our own ingenuity. So magic is kind of viewed as kind of like, well, that was good for what it was back then, but do we really need it now? Should we really be promoting magic and then kind of supporting it? Or is this school really just kind of this relic, this thing that just needs to die off? And you see kind of these political officials who are essentially, reshaping the government of this country. This country, they don't really specify what it is, but again, I'm going to kind of say the UK, so maybe England or something like that. And basically saying, listen, now they're not saying, oh, they need to be wiped out, we need to storm the gates and burn it to the ground. But they're basically saying, we're not going to help them financially anymore. We're not going to fund anything. We're not going to really support them because we kind of feel that it'd be better if they just go away. So that's kind of what this school is working against. It's a world where a lot of people just don't see the need for magic anymore. And kind of the spectacle of magic is kind of waning, because again, unlike us, where if we were to uncover a magical world, an entire community of people could do magic, we understand we would probably maybe a little bit afraid, but at the same time kind of in a state of wonder. But imagine if you've grown up your whole life where magic is real, and there are people who do magic, and it's not a secret, so magic wouldn't be magical to you. It would just be another part of life. It's like if someone who's never seen an iPhone ever, and suddenly you showed them an iPhone and all the things they could do, they would look at that iPhone like it's magic, but to you it's like, well, it's a phone, who cares? Because you've grown up with it. It's a part of your life. You don't see it as something special, because for you, quite frankly, it isn't. So for these people, these non-magic users in this world, magic is nothing special because it's always been there, even though they can't do it. So it's basically kind of showing how this school is trying to find its identity, and magical users are trying to find their identity in the modern world, how they can be relevant, how they can be helpful, how they can function as a a worthwhile entity in a modern setting. And that's kind of what this show's really about. This story is like, yes, on the surface, it's Akko trying to kind of live up to and fulfill her dream of being a witch and this and that. But she's also more from the outside. She was also kind of lived more as a quote unquote normal person. So she's kind of stood on both sides of the line, and she's trying to show these politicians, when she comes in contact with one of their sons, who is kind of being groomed to be, a high-ranking political official of the country, and they trying to show them that, witches have a place in this world. They can provide an invaluable service to this world. They shouldn't be just dismissed just because they practice an art that comes from way back when. That they can apply this art in a modern setting and give use in a modern society. So that's kind of a bit of the struggle that's going on. So, and that's kind of the underlying story within this whole story. So on the surface, and all this kind of fun madcap, adventure is going on. Under that, that's the current that's kind of traveling underneath. And the really cool thing about the story too is you see kind of magical creatures and how they exist today. For those of you who are familiar with The Hobbit, or you just saw, the Desolation of Smaug movie, you see like the depiction of dragons kind of being these hoarders, these beasts that kind of just have a lust for like treasure and like precious things. They kind of just basically guard them with their life, like to an obsession. Well, there's a great part where there's actually a dragon here, but he's a modern dragon. So now instead of having a big pile of gold that he protects, he plays the stock market. He has investments, and when you see his lair, he's got all these big screens behind him that are tracking all his investments, looking at the various international markets, and that's how he makes his money now. That's his treasure. He plays the market. That's kind of like showing, again, taking this ancient world thing and applying its sensibility in a modern setting. And that's kind of what this show does. It takes like these old world ideas and says, what would it be like if they were here today? There's also a whole like subplot with him like owning like the land lease for the school and having to renegotiate it, and it's basically he's a glorified landlord, and again, taking the idea of a dragon being, obsessed with like, material and money, and making kind of a literal thing in this case, So again, they play up that kind of old world angle in a modern setting, because in this world, this is something that has always been there. So it, like our society, these cultures, these creatures, these beings, these ideas have kind of evolved with society. So they're kind of showing how they be represented in a modern sense. So that's kind of what it's about. It's about kind of like tradition versus, the future. Just because something always has been doesn't mean it still needs to be. And if it wants to be, then it has to be malleable. It has to be able to evolve. And that's what they're showing, is that, yes, no one's saying witchcraft. Well, some people are saying witchcraft should go away. But the people who are fighting to keep it around are basically saying, listen, we understand that things as they were can't continue to be now. But that doesn't mean, like the rest of the world, we can't change too. We can't evolve. Witches and magic shouldn't go away. It just needs to evolve. It needs to find its own place in the modern world. It needs to find a different purpose in the modern world. And I like that. The school isn't just saying we need to bring back things to the way they used to be. We need to harken back to the glory days. No, they understand they need to change, and they're trying to do just that. They're trying to prove to kind of the political powers that be that, you know what, this is we've always been here too. You have no more claim to this world than we do, and vice versa. So like you, because you can change, you can evolve, your society can grow, why can't we too? And don't count us out. Let's all work together so we can all find a place in the world together where we can all kind of function together, because everyone can add something to the mix. One side shouldn't just be excluded. So that's kind of what it's about. It's about basically saying, okay, taking what traditions and essentially kind of cherry picking, basically, what works now and what maybe needs to go. Because again, yes, this is a time-honored tradition in this world, but doesn't mean every aspect of it needs to continue. Not because necessarily it's bad, but because it just has no place in the world. And, Akko is kind of a sign of the future. She is a witch, someone who is striving to achieve kind of magical greatness, but at the same time, she's not kind of marred by this kind of old world sense of glory, like witches in the heyday. She's very much a modern thinker and wants to be a witch in the modern world. And that's kind of the driving force behind her story, her adventures, is like she's trying to be who she wants to be, not where the modern world views her as, or not what like the magical community thinks she should be. She wants to be who she wants to be, which is basically what all witches need to learn to be in the modern world. So Little Witch Academia, that's basically what it is. It's a really fun story. The animation is a lot more cutesy. It's kind of a, again, I always talk about like kind of 90s style anime. That's my favorite. And in the 90s, you had like the super realistic looking stuff. And then you also had some of the more fun, kind of, crazy looking stuff. This would definitely kind of fit into the latter. It's exceptionally well animated, very beautifully done. Just the level of expressiveness the characters have, it's really, really good. So the art team did a great job of that. So on the surface, it's funny, it's fun, it's cute. So there's that. There's kind of the initial aesthetic. If you're a fan of like really anime, you'll definitely look at this and not have a problem with whatsoever. If you're not really into anime or you never really watch it, you might look at this and think to yourself, this doesn't look like my thing at all. But give it a shot, watch it, because the story that's underneath all that aesthetic, I think, is very interesting and it's very gripping. And so even if the style is not really your cup of tea, watch it maybe a little bit for the story so you can kind of get a sense of it. Again, the two films don't dive quite as much into it. The second one is a bit more. It's the series that really kind of, gets more involved with kind of the political side of it. But because the series technically takes place before the films, you can quite frankly just start with them if you want to, and then if you really like, you go with the films, or watch one of the movies just to get a sense of the look and feel of it, and then decide if you want to commit to a series. Either way, check it out. It's currently, at the time of this recording, airing on Netflix. But as soon as some links come up for like the Blu-rays and stuff like that, I'll be sure to put them in the description section below so you can pick it up, check it out. So if you have seen it, Little Witch Academia, what are your thoughts? What do you think? Do you like it? Do you like this idea of magic being practiced openly in the modern world, and kind of this, the world's reaction to it being one of like, waning interest? Have you not seen it? If so, check it out. Come back, give me some of your thoughts. Let me know what you think, as I always like kind of getting some feedback from all of you guys. So as always, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace!